I don't think we've ever been more divided as people, countries, and I travel the world for work. So I see and I hear what people's opinions are on America and things like that. I mean, 40 years ago, when we're making the New Order record, we're inspired by a lot of Nostradamus and predictions and the world. And 40 years later, shit, we're still here. Now we're experiencing it.
So, I have the wonderful Chuck Billy of Testament with me today. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well,
Good,
very
man.
well.
Good, good, good. So let's, I guess, dive straight into Para Bellum. The last time you were releasing an album, we were at the heights of COVID, and now 5 years later, it seems that no one's listened or watched Terminator enough, and now the machines are about to take over.
It's true. It's very true. Yeah, 5 years, unfortunately, COVID, you know, when we put that record out, we did have the decision. We could have said, let's wait and wrote it out, which we probably would have waited maybe a few years after it's all said and done. But we decided to release it during that time, thinking that, oh, people are going to be home. Maybe they can really pay attention to it and check out the record. But then a couple of years went by. And then once we got to start touring again, we just kind of toured like it was the new record cycle again. So we did a good 2 years on that. And then we took another year just to write this record. And well worth the wait, though. I think, things happen for reasons. I'm a true big believer in that. And I think Dave Lombardo, who was penciled in to do this record with us, had other opportunities and other projects going on. So we didn't have time to wait. So we knew we had to move on. And Chris was one of our choices of drummers. Um, because when Gene left, we actually were going to contact Chris because we were taking audition videos and we liked his playing. And then at the last minute, Dave Lombardo called me and said, "Hey, I hear you're looking for a drummer." So, of course, when Dave Lombardo calls you, you say, "Hey, let's do it." So we did it. And, we had a great time. And we talked about making the new record when we're done touring. We'll do the holidays and we'll start fresh with the new record next year. And then when that time came, we had other obligations and we couldn't fit our schedules together. So we knew, oh no, this isn't going to work out. So um, prior to that, Dave couldn't do like 4, 5, 6 shows at the beginning of a tour. So we brought Chris to do them. And he did a great job. He knew all the songs. He was solid. The only thing is when we met him in person, we're like, how old are you? He's like 24. We're like, oh shit, you're young. But what that being said, he brought a new style of metal because he's much younger. He's been brought up with a different style of metal than we were. So I think his influence of current metal, current type of bands coming out, maybe played a little role in pushing Eric and just him bringing that style because that's who he is to this new record.
Absolutely, man. I like there were almost sort of hints of, I guess, kind of black metal, like on Infanticide AI in particular. I think, with those like blast beat drums and everything.
Yeah, especially also the For the Love of Pain, the opening track. Total could be a black metal song. You know, it's funny because that song, Chris wrote the lyrics to that song. So that's kind of new. No other drummers have wrote lyrics for the band. So um, that song was written, and Chris was just at home one weekend and he decided, I'm going to write some lyrics and sing the demo. So he did, and he sent it to us, and we're like, oh, cool, right on. And really didn't, I don't know if it was going to take it serious because that was unusual to have the drummer write lyrics. So I went and wrote that song with Steve Souza, and and then I went into the studio to sing it, and it just didn't feel correct. I didn't have the vibe. So I told the engineer, "Hey, pull up Chris's demo. Let's have a listen to that thing. Pull up the words. Let's see." So we listened to it. I said, "You know what? Let's have a shot at that way, but let me try my style." So I did, and I laid down all the tracks and I sent it to Chris and or to Eric and Chris, and like, cool, right on, man. And then Eric took it from there and actually wrote his parts that he sings, that little black metal part in there.
Yeah.
So they both put it together, and in the end, Eric probably got his way. He got a black metal type of song, and lyrically, musically, everything in there. But it surprised me that we chose it for to be the opening track. But in the end, I was kind of pleased because it just hit you in the face hard coming out of the gate.
Yeah, man. I think this whole record is like aside from maybe meant to be, I think that ballad is really beautiful. I think it's really nicely placed in the record as well because it kind of breaks things up, but it's like breakneck speed a lot of this, which is what I
Yeah,
love.
and that's really unusual to where that placement of that ballad is too, because usually that would probably be on the B side of a vinyl,
Yeah.
or later down the CD. But to put it so soon, it works. It's because those first three songs are just pounding you, and then you break it up a little bit, and then we move into like a British style heavy metal towards the end, and then back to the title track, which is even unusual. The title track being the last song, you know. So it's very odd, but it does work and it flows very well. The whole record.
Yeah, man, I totally agree. And you need that space for sort of reflection, I think, where you can have take a breath and then I think you really sort of especially because of the way that Meant to Be kind of evolves as well as the song kind of goes along. I think it's kind of slightly progressive in some ways.
Totally. I mean, especially when that song particular, like when Eric and Alex wrote it. Eric actually was the first time he actually went to New York to meet with Alex to sit down and work on some music. And then when he came home, I said, "How'd it go?" It went great. Got a bunch of riffs and said, "Okay, cool. What's it like?" And he goes, "We'll show you when it's ready. But we were working on this one piece, and it's going to be epic." I'm like, "Epic? That's a big word. Epic. Okay." So I left it at that. And as it progressed, and I finally got the music, I said, "Wow, that is pretty epic. Very beautiful, very emotional." And I was excited because we haven't done a song like that a long time. And it really took me back and reminded me of like Return to Serenity and stuff like some of the old classic Testament style ballads. And but at first I was like, man, that's 8 minutes. That's a lot of words. I'm gonna sing with a lot of words on that song. So I had to find my space on it. And at the beginning, the smooth, mellow stuff, it worked. And I left the end of it open for guitar. And I think that was the beauty because Alex takes you on a guitar journey with the where it goes guitar wise and the solos and everything in there. And it turned out like wow, just epic. It really did turn out that way.
Yeah, man, it's a fantastic song, and I think going kind of back to the fact that Chris contributed some lyrics. I was just thinking, it was very big of you as the band singer, like to actually be like, well, let's see what this guy's kind of like what he's brought to it, and maybe how we can kind of change things up a little bit. I think that's really cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've been open to writing. I've been writing with Del James and Steve Souza probably over 25, maybe almost 30 years on all of our records. And, I mean, if I was to be a guy that goes, I want to write it all because I want all the publishing,
Yeah.
I want all the money, the songs probably might not have been as good. I like the idea of bouncing the ideas and working with somebody. And that's why I started writing with Del because Dell is a writer. He writes books. He was a chief editor at Rip Magazine back in the '80s, and
Oh,
we had a
cool.
connection there. And so he had a way, and he has a dark mind, dark vision. So whatever topic I wanted to, I knew he was perfect, and he would be able to take my ideas, which are really simplistic, and make them and use proper words to put it together to make sense, almost like poetry. So we had this really good thing, but we worked really fast. Like if I go to his house, we'll write like 2 songs in a day,
Wow.
so I knew it was just really, it was, we were just getting a lot done whenever we got together. So it was just a good writing team. So we kept it going over 20 years. I think it's got to be almost 30 years now. We've been writing and working together.
Blimey, that's a hell of a relationship. And it's funny that you mentioned about that sort of writing aspect because one of my favorite things about Testament songs is like some of them are like little vignettes of stories themselves, like Room 117 on this record. Like that one I absolutely loved, man.
Yeah, and it's odd because that was a song Dell, you know, his mother was ill this year and it was in the hospital, and she was in room 117. So he spent a lot of time there, and she passed in room 117. But he wrote a poem or lyrics, but he said, "Hey, I've been spending a lot of time. I got these words here. Sent it to me. If you can use them, go for it, man. Put them in anything you want." So I took those lyrics with some I created and developed it into that song to where, it's not necessarily about his mom, but I took that inspiration that someone entered in room 117 and didn't make it out. So I just kind of took that little metaphor as like, okay, something's scary about room 117. You don't want to go there. So that was just like, stay away from room 117. So it was awesome. I seen Dell last week and I played it for him, the final mastered version, and he loved it. It was just cool to see that it's a song that means something, and it had a meaning, and him writing the words to express himself in that dark time he was having to make it come to life was cool.
Yeah, man, and very relatable, I'm sure, for a lot of other people that will hear it.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, man. I think, one of the things that I was wondering is, when it comes to these sort of ideas and sort of the small sort of vignettes, as I sort of mentioned, like what's kind of like, yeah, that makes the cut, that's a great idea, or that's a good sort of concept.
It depends per record. I mean, like Brotherhood of the Snake and Titans of Creation, I was really captivated by aliens and mankind being created by aliens. So that was kind of in that mindset. And I still kind of am. But when it came to this record, when I was getting the music, it was such a variety of songs. It wasn't just typical heavy thrash metal riffs or anything like that. It had black metal, it had death metal, it had new wave of British heavy metal. It had just a little bit of everything, in the writing. So really had to take the approach one at a time on this record and just and feel it out. But in the end, I think the consistent part of it was war. What affects all of our lives in the war in Ukraine and all that. We all feel the pain and suffering of children and animals and just innocent people that it's like, you almost feel guilty. I'm sitting here having a great life in America, no worries, and it's not so good for them. And so yeah, the theme affects everybody, and technology could play a part in that too, with the AI stuff. um the scary part of what if AI retains enough information, because that's what it does, is retain info. What if it gets so much information that now it can actually make decisions for itself and all of a sudden create World War IIIs, or set off nuclear wars, or create propaganda to create people, divide people and keep people against each other? You can't control it if it got that smart. So that's a scary thing. That was kind of like war, technology. Man, it's right in our world today.
Yeah, man. Well, they often say, war is the single most sort of advancement of technology there is, right? Like it's really, I think, it does make me think as well, like why is it that we're inherently sort of scared of technology? Because I am too, man. I absolutely think what is going on with AI, we've let the genie out of the bottle kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, in San Francisco, we have cars or taxis that don't have drivers. I don't know if you've seen those, but
No way, really?
yeah, there's no drivers. There are cameras and things going around, and driverless cabs, taxis. And I even went to a restaurant where there was a robot collecting plates off the table to take them back to the dishwasher. So I was like, wow, this technology is just crazy, where it's advancing and getting, more and more into our daily lives, you know, and especially, the theme of war. I'm going to go back to that. It's a song like Havana Syndrome. That's kind of a song where it's a silent killer. It's a silent weapon, that invaded Havana, attacking American consulate with a sonic sounds and people losing their vision and their hearing and just being ill and never being the same, but they don't understand what's going on. It's almost like a silent weapon, so and it's funny because after we wrote it, I just seen last week, I see the cargo ships, uh they always get boarded or try to rob by pirates, right? So I always see them put barbed wire around all the ships and stuff so they can't board the ship. Well, last week I seen them. They're using that sonic weapon to keep off pirates. So they'll hit the ship and they're losing their hearing. They go blind. They're throwing up everywhere. They're nauseous. It's just a ugly, nasty thing. So it's like, wow, it's just technology, weaponry. It's getting so advanced.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the cover for Parabellum is absolutely like horrifically beautiful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it fit really well because originally, I mean, the first song lyrically, musically we wrote was Infanticide A.I. So originally Eric was like, let's call the record that, and we're like, it's a working title. And as time went, we were just thinking about it like, I don't know if we really want to open that door for people to kind of question, was that album cover AI? Did they use AI to help them write lyrics? All of that. And we're like, maybe we shouldn't open that door. Let's just keep it where it's at. And me and Alex wrote Parabellum later on as one of the later songs. And Prepare for War, it's like that fits the theme. And we were working on the album cover and we knew we wanted this nuclear explosion. I didn't know about the angel and all that and that. I just knew we wanted the nuclear explosion and work something in and bring war into it. So when it was Prepare for War, oh wow, Parabellum makes more sense than Fantaside AI. It'll fit this cover art we're working with. And I seen the sketch and I couldn't tell what the angel was, but in the final artwork, when I finally seen it, I was just like, whoa, wow. It hit me like practice what you preach, just the bold and brightness of the record. And it was just
Yeah.
like, wow. And again, it's beautiful, but so devastating still.
Yeah, totally, man. It reminded me of have you ever seen that movie Threads or The Day After or anything like
Day
that?
after, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that like it had that sort of effect, like quite profound effect where it really just makes you think a lot about nuclear war and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I think this in our generation right now where we're living is probably the closest to a third world war we're ever gonna see. But who knows when technology could take over, it could happen sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean it's in a way I find it really interesting because it's almost like even though, in 1986, 87, all that sort of stuff, everyone was singing about the Cold War and things like that. Here we are 40 years later, and we're still in a similar predicament.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, 40 years ago, we're making the New Order record. We're inspired by a lot of Nostradamus and predictions and the world, and 40 years later, shit, we're still here. Now we're experiencing it. It's happening, and wow, are we going to meet our demise again, sometime? Well, maybe in my lifetime, but we're right on the cusp of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like sometimes, because the title Prepare for War, it's very much a kind of Parabellum is a statement, and it's I think something where you can read into it in so many different ways as well.
Well, totally, just everything. And I think that's when you hear the record and you hear the title, it's awesome. But the record just has so much variety musically, lyrically. Um, it was just a perfect title, I think, for the record because the majority of it does touch on that. They all kind of connect in its own weird way. Even like a song like "Meant to Be," you would first think, "Wow, it's a power ballad," and maybe it sounds like a man and woman singing to each other their love for each other. It's a love story, but it's not. It's actually humanity singing to the planet Earth. So if you really go back and listen to the words and pick out the words, it's us talking about how we've damaged our relationship with the planet. And but in the end, mankind is put here and that we are here meant to be here, good or bad, you know, start over again or whatever. But the humanity keeps trying to create, start again, and it's still going to survive. So if you listen to it, pick that out and listen to the lyric, and you go, oh, okay, now I get it. Now it isn't about a couple of lovers; it's about our love and miss of our abuse against the planet and our relationship with the planet.
The system now controls you. Everyone is under fate. We have achieved.
Wow. See that, but that's such a great thing about, when you write lyrics like that, that you can have so many different meanings within the same sort of song, you know?
And that's the point, I think for that one especially, that I wanted it for people to go, oh, that's a great love song. I could see singing that to my boyfriend or, vice versa.
Yeah.
Cool, right on. But the deeper meaning, the real meaning, it's the same, but it's just two different characters.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. And it's do you speaking from personal experience, do you ever sort of find it a bit much with like everything that's going on to like these days with social media, and it's kind of like you just can't escape this, I don't know, this sense of like impending doom, I guess. I don't know, it just doesn't feel like things are getting brighter.
It isn't getting brighter. And I think politics has a big part in that because I don't think we've ever been more divided as people, countries, and I travel the world for work. So I see and I hear what people's opinions are on America and things like that. And, people that are in America stuck here that never get to see the rest of the world, they're one sided and only see it one way. I get to see it all from all perspectives, and talk to people and experience what it's like to be somewhere else. It's just I don't see it getting better, and even like amongst my friends, I never knew who was a Republican or Democrat. We were just friends.
Yeah.
But since politics is playing a big part, now everybody seems to know who's Republican, Democrat. It's almost like you're picking a side. And it's just really getting divided, and I hate it. And the people in control and power, they're not representing themselves like proper political people. I think they're abusing power, and it's not right. Things are just not lined up the way it should be. And it's scary because in the past we felt like we were in a safe world, and everybody's plan is let's get married, have children, and have a family in the future, blah blah blah. I think people might have a different opinion on that today, especially what's going on in the world. People might go, I don't know if I really want to bring a family into this world and put them in here when I'm gone and I'm leaving here in this unpredictable world in 20, 30 years from now, or even further. What's it gonna what are I might feel different about that. I'm sure a lot of people might have that same feeling.
I absolutely 100% agree with everything you said. And like the great thing is because you're able to travel, you're able to see all these different cultures and, immerse yourself in all these different experiences as well.
and talk to people and hear their opinions, because it doesn't affect them, but they have an opinion and they watch what's going on in America. What are they doing? What's their president saying? What's he going to do next or say next? All eyes are on us.
Mm.
So it's interesting to see that part of it, but when you get to America, it's just divided.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, man. I feel like, the UK is very much kind of, America's little brother in the in the background, and I think
Yeah.
it's on the way.
Yeah. I mean, that whole Brexit thing that started, I mean, that's the first step of dividing.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, I think one of the things is you kind of hit it, the nail on the head when you sort of mentioned it, but you kind of think, surely not, that's not going to happen. We live in like a positive world, everyone gets married and gets a house and all this sort of stuff. And now you're just like, yeah, maybe it's not the Disney sort of ending.
No, no, it's not. And it's scary because you always used to believe in your government and all the things set in stone, or you know everything that our forefathers and everybody who else led these countries before us you know worked very hard to get to where our country is and how people are, and now it's just so different. Again, it's just I don't agree with politics, and I don't like to talk to it. And like now when we get friends together, it's like no politics. We're just
Yeah.
gonna have friends and have dinner and go have some drinks. None of that crap, because we can go on all night and agree to disagree.
Absolutely, man. I'm absolutely the same. When you're at the dinner table, it's never politics or religion or anything like that.
No, 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 no.
But it's interesting because I feel like, records like Parabellum will have people thinking about this sort of stuff, and it's important.
That's what Testament's always been, though. We've always been that kind of band from like the New Order, singing about the greenhouse effect and the New World Order and things like that. Things that are real.
Yeah, that's the scariest thing, right? You can have all these
Yeah,
stories, but it's the reality of it all.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So if you were to say, you had a particular moment or something that you did on Parabellum, what would you say you're most proud of in contributing to this record?
Um, well, I would say just the approach, because in the past I've always had a hand. Whenever I got the riffs from Eric, I'd always have a say, "Oh, I like that riff. Maybe that's the verse, or that's the bridge, and maybe let's use that for the chorus." Oh no, I hear that for a lead section. Where I think it really slowed down the process of writing songs, because there was just too much second guessing, or is it right or not. Where on Titans of Creation, I just said, you know what, Eric, just because Brotherhood took like 2 years to write, and I didn't want to go through that again. So Titans came, and I said, Eric, just give me the music, and I'm just going to do my best. And it really challenged me as a vocalist to just find my way and try different voices and try different timings and stuff. And it worked. And so when we went into this right, I thought, let's have it out the same way. Write, just go and write and give me the music and let's go for it. And so when I got all the music, it was just such a variety. I was like, wow, okay. Oh, well, some of them I'm like, that don't sound like a heavy metal riff. So it was just a big variety of stuff. And for me, again, it was the challenge as a vocalist after writing songs for 40 years to still have a chance to try new things, to push the envelope a little bit, to maybe be confident enough after doing it for 40 years that, you know what, everybody's going to have their own opinion. Everybody's not going to like it. There's going to some people are going to hate it. So you can't please everybody. So just go for it and do your best, and it is what it is. And I think that's where we're at as a band. And I think that's what opens us up to be confident to play songs like Meant to Be, or put in songs like Room 117, or even songs like Nature of the Beast. That's a very different Motorhead, British heavy metal feel. It reminds me of like an old 70s Thin Lizzy dueling guitar stuff in there sometimes, you know? So yeah, it's just it's fun to be able to have a writer partner like Eric that's creative that way, and it doesn't just have a straight line. It's got to be this, and every song's got to be fast, and it's got to be brutal. And I'm glad that he's got an open mind, and that all of us do, that to just let's do what we've done, but let's be testament, you know?
Yeah, testament, but not as you know it.
Exactly, exactly.
But that's exactly what I think you nailed it, because it's an absolutely brilliant record. It's got those signature thrash tropes, but then it's doing something different. I think it's absolutely brilliant, man. I really love the record.
Thank you so much, man. And I'm glad I'm hearing a lot of it, especially on the. I'm a guy that doesn't read a lot of social media. I don't like reading opinions, so I stay away. I hear it from the rest of the guys. Oh, did you hear? But when we started releasing a couple of tracks, I would just see in some of the comments right away, just to get a feeling. Let me just have a peek when it first comes out, and it was all very consistent. Everybody really loved the direction and of it, and so far so good.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, a massive congratulations on the record, and thank you so much for taking the time to appear on the channel. I really appreciate it, man.
Well, thank you, Tristan. I appreciate it for having me, man. Wonderful.